All right, welcome. I'm going to call the Bond Oversight Committee meeting to order at 5:35. At this time, why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves real quick? We'll start with Eileen.
Eileen Flute, Director of Finance.
John Abel, Cornerstone.
Big Parker. Big Warner Communications.
Ryan King, parent.
Caleb Ivy, ground level home inspections.
Lucas Welliver. President. Good behavior small business owner.
Valerie Ingram, School Board Member.
Like Mondell, Andrew Jones.
Kate Grandesky, School Board Member.
Mary Pignon, parent and technology fund.
Great. At this time, I will make a motion to approve the September 20th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Second.
Great, all in favor? Aye. Everybody say aye?
Aye.
Great, thanks. We did that. All right, turn it over to Eileen.
All right, just to reframe what our purpose of our committee is really to be the bond oversight committee for our entire bond projects and the entirety of the bond life. And so the three major goals is to make sure that we are meeting our bond promise. We are meeting the commitments that we made to the community. We are on time. We're doing 95% of the bond projects within the first 3 years of the bond sale. And then we are on budget, of course, making sure that we are making sure we are meeting all of those needs and staying on budget. And then finally, the one thing that we didn't bring up in the last couple of meetings is that this committee is required to send an annual report to the board on what your findings are and what you're seeing and noticing as far as these three things. So the program schedule and spending. And so at the end of today's meeting, we'll kind of talk about next steps for that one component. When we're looking at everything's in your packet, and I don't have everything up here, but I did want to put, this piece is not in your packet. The bond levy rate is one of the big things from our commitment to our community when we started this whole campaign process was that our anticipated rate was $1.50 over the 22 rate. And so the projected rate through the bond campaign was $3.67. And after the 23 rates came in this last November, we actually ended at $3.43. So it was only $1.26 per thousand increase compared to the 22 rate. So slightly less than what we had projected through the campaign, but it is still a heavy burden over our community because it is $1.50 over the 23 rate. So the prior year, because it went 22 rate, then it dropped slightly. And then now this one came up on top of it. So it's still $1.50 over the 23 rate, but only $1.26 over what our rate was at the time of the campaign. Does that make sense? So it's good news, but it's still a pretty significant impact to our community. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging that and we are meeting all of the community's hopes and all of the commitments that we did through this process. So the bond sheet, this first one that you guys have in your packet, it has, this is the summary sheet of expenditures and revenue. Across the top is the revenue, and ultimately we're at $139 million of resources, a little over 10 million more than what we had projected in the bond campaign, and that was primarily the bond premium from the first sale. As far as expenditures, we've committed and expended 16.1 million, and we have $123 million remaining. Each one of these lines, we have an individual project sheet behind that John and I will kind of tag team and go through the individual projects. So I wasn't going to spend a ton of time on the specific projects here on this sheet. I just wanted to kind of go over some highlights on the financial side. Overall, the resources, like I was just saying, were about $10 million, $10.7 million in premium, $139 million total anticipated by the end of the bond. This only includes revenue for interest that we've seen to date. So it does not include projected interest for the rest of the bond, and it doesn't include any anticipated premium for the second sale. So this 139 is only going to grow between now and the end of the bond. Compared to the last time we met in September, it is $51,000 higher than what it was at that time when we met, and that's all interest. As far as expenditures, of this same tab, there's a few, the first three columns are budget. So budget as of the budget that we projected when we went out, for the bond. And then what the budget is today, and then the comparison or the change. And all of the $10 million that we've received in interest and premium is put into contingency. And then we have moved some budgets between major projects as we start to consolidate projects into building projects, or we take building projects and start pulling pieces out and doing them separately. An example is our seismic budget. We had the full $15 million in a seismic budget on a separate, but as we start doing like Neil Armstrong and Dilly and the high school, we're taking that budget from the seismic budget and pushing it to the building budgets, so that we can account for them as a consolidated building project. So overall, there's three major changes that we've done since the start of the bond. We have consolidated NAMs, and we've taken the HVAC and seismic budgets and pushed them into the NAMs building budget. So that's $4.5 million that was added to that line item. And then the Forest Grove High School CTE expansion, we added $975,000. That actually came from the high school seismic budget. Because when we went and got the final assessment done for seismic to the high school, there wasn't a full 3 million needed at the high school. So we were able to recoup those funds and use them for another high school project for the CTE, and then provide just a little bit larger of a space over there and actually get the program that we're hoping for with that piece. And then Dilly Elementary, moving $1 million of seismic funds to there. So overall, the seismic budget went down 5.9 million, and the HVAC budget went down by 600,000 to be able to push those into the building consolidated budgets. So those you'll see in the summary sheet. And then as far as expenditures, I wasn't going to go line by line on these because we will talk about project specific budgets here in a minute. But I did want to highlight just some of the things that we have completed. The two tracks, Humacall and Neil Armstrong, are completed now. The gym floor is substantially complete. There's a couple of items that we're waiting on to finalize there, but it's substantially complete. Several of our roofing budgets, our HVAC budget, and then we have the NAMS gym curtain up already. Things that we are actively working on and we're meeting every single week on to make sure that the projects are kicked off for this coming summer is Cornelius Elementary. We're still working on the athletic budgets. The Neil Armstrong vestibule, seismic, PE, that consolidated project, technology, safety and security, Dilly, and then the high school CTE program. So those are the ones that we are actively working on and getting ready to kick off this spring and summer. So a couple of, I did want to note just a couple of schedule adjustments from the last time we met to now. We have, or not the last time from now, but really from the start to now, we've kind of taken the a portion of Taylor Way and kicked it out, and then taken pre-K, making sure that there's capacity for pre-K classroom in every building. Took that from the start of the bond and put that to the end of the bond. We also moved HVAC, fire systems, playgrounds, and safety up. And so we're going to kick off those sooner than what we had anticipated. So that's just a little shift that we did based on need and what demands we have right now. Fire safety, security, those are #1 priorities we want to kick off now. The pre-K piece, we don't have extra funding for it right now. So that was something that wasn't necessarily immediate, get done first year, but something we could get done second and third year. Any questions on those? Now we'll start going through our specific project reports. Each one of these sheets is, has a similar format. We tried to provide a schedule update for each project, maybe project from the consolidated page. Talk about what's updated, what is an update for where we are in schedule, critical issues, critical things that we're working on right now. And then in the bottom right, it's just kind of a budget update and percentage spent. So we can see where we are in alignment with the schedule to spend.
Cornelius?
Cornelius.
Okay, so first project update, you'll see Cornelius Elementary. There's been a lot going on. We're really busy with that one. Basically started that the day after the bomb passed pretty much. So as you look at the schedule, our pre-design work is completed. A lot of work went into that, including community outreach, working with district staff, facilities maintenance, really putting together a program for that building. It's coming in at about 78,000 square feet, right around there. It may end up being a little less, but so a lot of space in there. That's the program. It's not just classrooms. We also have the admin, the layout, so working through all that. So design, where we're at design is we are 50% through the construction document. So at each phase, I think we talked about this a little bit last time, we hired our CMGC contractor. So that's when we bring them on early so they can help us with constructability and also estimating to see where the cost is trending. So we've had 2 estimates from them. One was at the schematic design, which was about 30% complete. We had 1 estimate at design development. And now this will be our 3rd and last estimate, but we'll get it 50% CD. And all along the way, we've been working to keep it on budget. It's kind of normal that the estimates come in a bit over, and that's why they're on board to help us identify places we can save costs or do things like that. So what we're all marching towards is bidding here in January. The architect will complete the plans, and we'll actually, so when you hire a CMGC contractor, you're really just hiring them for that pre-construction phase, and kind of we went out and we got a number of proposals. So you kind of lock them in at their rates, their overhead and their markups and fees. And then we'll actually go out and hire all the subcontractors. So really exciting time when those complete and we go out to bid. We anticipate really a lot of interest. There's not a ton of schoolwork going on right now. Also, the market is kind of slowed down. So there's a lot of subcontractors looking for work. So I think that's good news for the district going out to bid. Permitting land use, we're really in a great place. We already have land use approval from the city. It's much earlier than often happens, which is great. So we went in, showed them our general location for the building, what generally is going to look like, with the ability to change it a little bit. So we got that approval. The city has been really great to work with, and we'll be going back to them with some minor changes that'll happen. But having that done allows us to go immediately in for permits as soon as those drawings are ready. We have a lot of permits to get on the project from ODOT. We'll look at it because it there is no ODOT. We have Clean Water Services that will look at the water quality, the city, the county. So a lot going on there, but we're all really working our way towards construction in the spring. And really working with the defense to delineate where fencing will go. We actually have to move one of the portables out of the way because it's so close to where the building will go. And so you'll start to see activity. I guess our next meeting will be in March, and shortly after that, we'll be out there starting to set up for site work and things like that. And just a couple other things that we're doing. You may have heard about how long it takes to get some things. The longest item to get is the electrical switchgear. It's like, as the electricity comes in from the utility department, it goes, lands on the switchgear. That takes up to a year to get. So we've already, worked with an electrician to get that, went to the board on Monday, got approved. So really what we're also doing is identifying long lead items that are gonna take really long to get. Good news that we're well out ahead of that, and then budget wise, holding strong at our current budget of, 62.5 million basically, and, we've committed about 4.5 million to date, most of that is the architect. And we have plans over here that we're gonna look at later, and you can look at the latest, 20 days plan, and we can, answer all your questions about it as well. Flipping to the next page, we have, completed a few items at NAMS and Tom McCall, that being the tracks that I mentioned. And just a couple of closeout things we're working on there. The gym floor, we will actually be able to look at here tonight. Only thing left to do there, we're gonna put in volleyball, inserts that we can put, 3 sets of volleyball, posts and put them in there. And then, Eileen, you want to touch on
Yeah.
what else we're working on?
So when we started meeting with the teams from Tom McCall, the PE teachers, and coaches from Tom McCall, and then Neil Armstrong to try to find out what the interest is and what the goal is for having the tracks and what the needs were. One of the things that came out of that was the need for a synthetic turf, a secondary synthetic turf in the community. And how can we best utilize this budget to be able to do more than what we have? And so one of the things that we did is we didn't do a full high school track replacement or Neil Armstrong track replacement here at Tom McCall. We did more of a overlayment. We fixed the base. We made it a small, more elementary community track here instead of investing a lot of resources into this track. Then it allowed us to be able to leave and have more capacity within this budget to do more with our dollars, to be able to hit and meet more students' needs. So what we have here is it's not finalized. There's an asterisk next to it. We're still working on estimates and what this could look like, but I did want to make sure that you guys were aware of it. But we are looking at doing a NAMS turf field in the middle. So when we put in the bioswale and when we did the track itself, we were pre-planning for that turf field. So we oversighted the bioswale so it would be able to do that if there was enough funds left over after those projects were done. So we have the NAMS turf field, and then we also have the NAMS gym floor to do a replacement of that gym floor. It's not that old, but it is fading, especially where the bleachers come out. There's not enough elasticity. Is that like what you would call it? Or, so it needs some support. It needs some TLC. It needs to be replaced. So what we're looking at doing is utilizing the remaining bond funds of this project on those 2 items. It does meet the bond commitment. It aligns with it to be able to expand our PE opportunities at Neil Armstrong. And it also replaces floor, and it really improves the ability of all kids district-wide to be able to utilize space all year round. So that's one of the things that in our listening session, we heard a lot about. So that's what we're looking at potentially doing this next summer. I say that is potentially, but we are kind of solidly moving in that direction, to be able to use the rest of this fund, this budget specifically on the election. So, that hasn't been, we haven't publicized it like broadly yet. We're still investigating it, but that is.
Oh, you know the side.
Yeah.
should be a full soccer field because the NAM's track is larger, but I'm gonna have to double check.
And there's a lot.
No light.
Currently, no lights.
And then, what we got estimated from.
$1 million is our estimate from the contractor to just do the turf field, so it would not include lights.
Right.
Yeah.
But that is for the curve.
Yeah, the other two.
Yeah.
They're more pretty. Yeah, they do most of it.
Is the replacement on that, the dam stuff, are they looking at the same material they used previous? Cause I know it's like rubberized. Or if they're gonna do,
In the gym floor, it'll be more of a rubberized flooring. It won't be a wood flooring like, yeah. That,
Not a very good.
rubber.
yeah,
Oh, that makes.
there's a few issues with that right now.
Personally.
Okay. Any other questions about that one?
No, that's exciting enough.
Right.
We're excited.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a turf, you're gonna have it on the east side, and it's another option for your field. Great.
The middle school in Hillsborough, South Meadows that we built, we put in the turf field. And the nice thing is that we just told, kids were doing PE. It's like, it's not muddy. It's like you bring coats and it's like prepare to be outside. Lunchtime at NAMS is really, and so again, being able to get them out to the turf field for more days during lunch is going to be again another reason why we're really looking at that turf field.
Yeah, so strong. Right.
And we were able to fully fence that field, almost fully fence that field for security and safety with these, so that piece is already done.
Can we look at putting in the things that go over the track, like, you know, we put in these nice tracks and then they're constantly walking over with different like types of shoes. You know, like something like those from high school that have like the pads that go where people walk. Like people are safe.
I know Mark's been looking into that. We're already having issues with gravel getting tracked across that track. So we are looking into adding like some concrete and asphalt out there so that people aren't going straight from the gravel to the track. But yeah, and then the walk off mats basically for football especially.
Not good if they spend all that money on that track and.
We have access here.
Yeah, just for those one walkways or the shoe walkways, right?
See the thing.
So, over at NAMS, some other stuff we've been working on, we have hired Star Builders also as a CMGC contractor there, so kind of work to identify the projects that were a little more complex or phased and use the CMGC process there. So Five Star, actually a pretty local firm from Banks has been helping us. And this project in particular, with the complexity of the moving the office, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the plan, but again, we can look at that up there, but part of, a lot of the job is seismic upgrades. And we worked early with KPFF structural engineers to look at all the buildings that were part of the bond to help us identify those scopes. So they're also now involved actually doing the design. And then, so it's going to be basically 2 summers and a year, that project schedule. And so anyway, a lot of complexity with moving the staff and phasing and things like that. So it's really helpful that.
John, maybe we just describe that a little bit. So
Yeah.
I understand. So originally, NAM's office was around the corner. And so to provide the vestibule, we need to move the administrative office. So it's moving to the front. And then you'll see on the plans, the vestibule will be there to control entry into it. But that movement of the administrative offices and then the rebuilding of the classrooms where the administrative offices were, That's built in a lot of that.
Yeah,
It'll help provide a direct line of sight for the office staff to, the front entry loop and people coming in. Right now, there's a lot of risk is they buzz people in, but not sure where they go. And they're counting on a monitor screen to be able to see up there. So, there is a lot of risk. That's our biggest safety and security, component of the bond.
yeah, now the vestibule funnel, have complete access to all those doors and give a funnel right into the office. So a lot of advantages of that, vestibule. And, the other, item we're working on down there, that last note is just trying to, get the seismic grant, they're up to 2.5 million, seismic grants are available for projects, so we're working to apply for that by basically right after the first of the year. They take all their applications in by June or so, find out if we are awarded that, so working on that as well.
We're actually applying for the seismic grant for 3 buildings, Neil Armstrong, Harvey Clark, and Echo Shaw. So our hope is to get it for Neil Armstrong because that's our biggest risk factor. And then Echo Shaw and Harvey Clark aren't planned for the following summer, so then we can always reapply for those buildings if we don't get them in here. So, as much as we can make the bond dollars stretch, that would be $2.5 million back into the bond to be able to do other projects.
Next item is technology project.
Yeah, so under the technology projects, we have it in a little bit different format than the building level projects. The 3 components for technology projects is our classroom instructional technology and modernizing that, and then our dark fiber and network infrastructure and storage. We are, if I start from the bottom up, the network infrastructure and storage, we're looking to see what pieces of that we can qualify for E-rate. And then that would also give us a reimbursement back into the bond. Our hope is to have that done in the summer of 2024. We've already started on some of the purchases that were more immediate. As far as the dark fiber, we're hoping to piggyback off of Northwest Regional ESC is going out for an RFP right now for dark fiber. And in that includes our loop, so it would go from all of our schools. So we're hoping to piggyback off of that, and then they would manage that project for us. It would help in the fact that one less project for us to manage, we would just then pay his fee. And then the classroom instructional technology, we've had a committee come together and look at what the instructional classroom technology should be, the projection, the screens, the computers. And so right after Christmas break, we should have a couple of test classrooms up and running in several of our buildings. So we'll see how the classrooms in the buildings like that setup. If all goes well, then we'll do probably a big purchase this spring and start to install through the summer and into the next year. And the dark fiber is also E-rate applicable too. So we would potentially get 80% reimbursement on that. All those funds would then go back in to be able to do more technology improvements.
Is that 10 classrooms, like at the same building or one in each building? Or
Throughout the
couple?
buildings.
Yeah, there'll be a mix across all the sites, so we'll be doing a few different elementary schools, primarily Cornelius, just because that's the standard that's gonna be going into the new buildings. We wanna make sure that those teachers get a good fair amount of input.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering, like, if you just do that one classroom per building, then you don't really have somebody to talk to about
Yeah.
how it's working or what you.
Yeah, so we're gonna do it a mix across elementary schools. We even have some already set up at the district office, so the TOSAs, CNI, they can run PDs at the district office and have staff look at it there as well.
The dark fiber, just so we know, so right now we pay monthly to incredible amount of money for Comcast to pass our packets. The dark fiber will eventually allow us to basically work with ESD and not have to pay Comcast. So that's kind of, so we control our information and the rest. Did I say that okay? Okay.
Yeah, it'll just allow us more flexibility in terms of adding capacity without the additional cost that would come with that if we stayed with a different, like an ISP providing. And it provides with greater redundancy because we'll be tying in to the fiber loops that the ESD is building basically statewide.
So like when they crash into the pole in Cornelius, they'll push the packets out through banks. So there's a lot more redundancy in this network. So that right now, when the internet goes down, no one's not going to cancel school because there's so much accounts for them. So having it up is really important. So Start Fiber turns out to be a really important piece for us. All right.
Well. Kind of running down our safety and security projects, Cell and DAS, we started out, doing a lot of testing of the sites to see. We know there's some cell issues at the high school, but we actually tested all the buildings. Now we have to read into what carriers are not doing well at different sites. And the DAS, we also tested, and really there was only, the high school was the only building that had an issue. And that, the DAS is the ability for emergency responders to go in the building to communicate. So we started with the high school and we got pricing for the cell, repeaters and upgrades there, the DAS, that went to the board, got approved. So that's off and running with Data Wireless. And we are going to continue with the other sites, kind of get our plan for cell upgrades. But we knew that the high school biggest priority to get. ADA buttons, we just have a handful of schools that we will be working on adding that were identified as needing those. Security system is the biggest component of this budget, and that really is the access control system, the video surveillance system, and the intrusion system. So been working on assessments and preliminary designs for those with Convergent, who was hired for that. And so we're to a point now where we have got kind of estimates on that, which it's really helping us budget where we think we're actually going to spend the money and what's required. And so the first item that we kind of dealt with was the Genetech conversion, which is it's basically the software that manages all the systems, right? So that's a major upgrade.
And I think that's gonna be nice for us, because right now our cameras and our access control are two separate systems, where this is gonna be one system. I mean, just for our admin and our maintenance guys, and then it's gonna be more user friendly on the phone. So for all of us to be able to respond to incidents and the investigatory, like, resources within that system. So if there's an incident, somebody vandalizes the outside of this school, or there's a fight or something happens, like we can, the tools in there to be able to narrow down time and specific instances and situations are going to be a lot more helpful for our administrators and for all of our staff to be able to really find out what's going on. So I think that was one of the biggest highlights,
Yeah.
going through these safety and security committees that we've done.
Security film, we'll be working to install security film at all the building entrances. And so that's moving along, we're getting quotes, and we'll be doing that here shortly. And then there's a group of other projects, fencing, gate hardware, landscaping, and signage that Pat has been great, kind of helping us, district, kind of going to each site. We had a survey of all the sites done as well, shortly after the final Pat, to kind of go to each site and look at how, you know, from the exterior, what our issues we might have to deal with. And so that is all been kind of reviewed and it's part of this scope as well, like where do we get things, where do we have open data that maybe deal with and have those not open for the day, and things like that, so.
And the last one is just the overhead cost, so that's anything that's not specific to a particular project. Some of it is, one of the things was our septet survey. Then there's the bond management cost of Cornerstone and some blue time sheets for pulling people together to help support us in the committee work and trying to plan out what are our priorities with safety, security through the time, and then take it big heavy lift this. That the safety and security budget is one that we will most likely pull from our contingency from $3 million of the amount for the amount of work that we've identified. So this is the work that we've identified that we want to hit first, our priority work. We think we'll be probably just a little bit over budget with that, but when we get done with a few other projects, and if there's funds left over, this is one place that we would probably reinvest more funds into. So just a heads up for the future.
Over at Taylor Way, we just have some minor things, that we are working on there. We did, already completed some asphalt repair in the parking lot, which is part of the work, back in the transportation area. We have a little bit of pavement work that we're working on now. And then, some HVAC and work on the garage doors out there, we will be doing. HVAC projects wide are, moving along, and you want to take this one?
I'm working with our facilities department. Our HVAC stuff is what we've decided to do in-house and not consult with bond management for, and so Mark Hughes and his team are really taking the lead on our HVAC projects. We have all of it identified. We've been able to do more than what's here through the remaining ESSER funds. So what's not on here is going to be adding air conditioning to classrooms at Echo Shaw, and Billy and Harvey Clark. And those are things that we're doing through other funding sources that are in addition to these projects. But really, we've gotten a kickstart on Forest Grove High School and getting the DDC controls updated. The boiler, chiller, there's a few things that we have on hold right now, but we have contracts in place for most of the work there at the high school right now. And then central admin and the boiler replacement has already been completed because it was on its last day. The rest of the things we're planning, we're in the process of getting quotes and moving forward on for a lot of them. But these are things that we'll do over the next 2 years.
If you see any acronyms that you don't recognize, let me know.
Yeah,
Because
there's
we
a lot.
kind of get into these construction meeting mode, throwing acronyms all over. But let me know, like DDC, direct digital control, they're the brain of their system. But anyway, feel free to ask.
And then I got the roofs too.
Yeah.
Most of the roofs we got completed this last summer. It's one of those projects that was a quick win to get done. They didn't take a whole lot of planning and forethought on. So we were able to get Taylor Way, Fern Hill, Oak Grove, Tomahawk, East and West, and part of the high school done this last summer. We have a little piece left at the high school and the health clinic that we'll do this next summer. And then Harvey Clark, we've held off to the side because we're thinking this project will probably be incorporated with the building wide project. So when we're doing the seismic work and everything, we'll do this at the same time. So we held off on moving forward with that project at this time until the building level happens. The reserves is the other one that we're holding on. We did not have Dilly's roof included in the bond, but that is one thing that was on layer number 2 that kind of was a need, but not quite met the total bond scope in the beginning. So if we have additional roofing budget left, that would be where we would want to prioritize. Okay. district-wide pre-K, I can talk to this one.
Yeah.
This one is the one that we thought we were gonna do in year one or start planning in year one, and we're moving it to starting to plan next year, and construction the following year. So there's not a lot on this page. The only thing that we've spent and committed is we have a PO for our architecture out there and for some of it. And, that's just kind of on hold.
It's the same story when you decide where those schools will have pre-K additions, then that budget item will get migrated to those projects.
Yes and no. So part of the pre-K, is that so the commitment is that we will ensure there's capacity at every building to allow a pre-K if and when it's funded. So when that regular operating is funded. So it's looking at the building and seeing, some buildings already have pre-K, so it's looking at that pre-K classroom, and in 5 years, are we gonna be able to still sustain pre-K in that building with capacity changes? And if yes, then maybe it's just a remodel of the classroom itself. If no, then it's an addition to the building. Some buildings might just get a little bit of a renovation, other buildings might get a couple of classrooms added to it. And so one of the things that we're kind of looking at is just the new developments that have come up in the last year in our community and where those are going to happen. We're working with the Charles Reinerson, who we've worked with in the past to do a 10-year demographic study. So we can just verify that where we're going to put those classrooms is the right place. Just a second check. So, and then is there going to be a boundary change with that? There's just so many, when we start diving into this, there's a lot more research that we need to do. And we'd rather do it right, and make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. So that's kind of why it's another year.
I guess my question was.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, that's very. So it's kind of next year when those projects are identified, kind of just as a budgeting question, we'll done the 6.9 million that says pre-K projects, and get readjusted to say, hey, we put $1 million.
That's a great question. If the building projects have already completed, it'll probably stay there. If, say, Harvey Clark, which hasn't started yet, is identified as an ad, then we would probably incorporate it into a building scope. So it kind of depends on timing. Yeah.
Yeah, we can buy it like we have, for example, seismic work, we know how we have, if we knew we were gonna do addition, we may just wrap that all into one bid and one project. I guess that's what you're referring to. So
So it depends on timing and then scope of work at that building to see if it makes sense.
next page is seismic projects, and I think this is mainly showing where you, like we were just talking about, have moved money to buildings. Like at NAN's building, Forest High School, adjustments to be made. Really, that was shot on
And those two will get pushed out to the building level when we start those projects.
Oak Grove Academy and Gales Creek.
That one we're gonna start planning soon.
Yeah, mainly deferred maintenance. So the way we kind of attack the deferred maintenance projects is to hire subcontractors direct where we can. And that's where market's been super helpful to save markups. Additional fees that we don't need, we can just get 3 quotes from an electrician or whatever that scope is, HVAC, it can save a lot of money. So.
It's also better with that, we're hiring more local.
Yeah,
Or tactical.
yeah, exactly.
So some of these next coming sheets are pretty empty. There's not a whole lot going on because we haven't kicked off those projects yet. But we wanted to make sure that going through this, we set up a template for the future and that every major project has a sheet so that we can see where we're at. So just some of these upcoming ones are pretty barren.
Yeah, Tom Caldwell, not a lot to report there on the deferred maintenance. I do have an update on Echo Shaw, and Harvey Clark, I'll kind of put those together. We are working now, because I kind of touched on earlier how long things are taking to get. We're just trying to do everything earlier now. So we're actually, working with our architect on those two projects to just, get into the buildings early. So we're gonna start, walking with BBL architects and KBFF engineering, Director Shaw and Park Park to just really now dive into those buildings and see scientifically what we need to do. And so we're gonna start walking those next week. And, that's really months ahead of what we used to do it. We're looking down the way to like, okay, this coming summer, they can get in the buildings, really dive into the design, wrap it up in the fall, so we can get it in the fall instead of it in the fall, spring. Because the earlier we can bid, we think the better, get better price and be able to order things out ready to go. June 17th, when we start construction, so that's coming up beyond showing our plan. Forest Grove High School, we've touched on some deferred maintenance that Mark is working directly on. So that is ongoing, mainly exterior there, restroom fixture work, carpet replacement, with more work coming this summer. Project I'm working on is the CTE addition and nursery renovation. And we are done with pre-design there. We're working through land use with the city because it is a building addition, backed by the science wing addition that we built. That's where we're planning that addition. It's about 2,400 square feet addition, mainly one large classroom for kiddos and students that are in there. So working through that process, going out to bid in January for that, and haven't really mentioned this yet, but so I talked about the CMGC process that we're doing at Cornelius and NAMS for some of these other projects. We're just going to finish the design building, and this is one of those projects. And we went out and we solicited an RFP for contractors that wanted to get pre-qualified. And we ended up pre-qualifying like 15 contractors, general contractors that, so we basically narrowed that bidding list so we know who we'll be bidding to, but it's still a pretty big pool. So, got a lot of interest, a lot of good contractors. So when this job is done, being designed, we'll go out to bid for that, to that group. And that's what we're doing with Daily as well.
Yeah, we did that with building last week. They had the
Yeah.
building walkthrough with the contractors. It was mandatory. So if you were interested in bidding on it, you had to show up. There was 10
Yeah, we have 10
of the 15 show up.
contractors. So
So it's a lot of really good interest.
a lot of good interest. I mean, I've worked through a lot of different cycles in the industry, and, there's times when we get 1, 2, or 3, but to get 10 is pretty amazing. And there were subcontractors too. So, a lot of interest, and we're working, towards starting that project, when school's out this coming summer. And since it's addition, it'll go, a little bit longer than just the summer. And then, we also are working on, remodeling inside the high school. The nursery area. There's one existing, but we're gonna move it closer to where we're doing the addition and design that, just better layout. Meet those needs.
Will the nursery have windows, the new one?
Yep.
That's nice, finally.
Yeah, and it'll be able to utilize some of the pre-K spaces. So it'll have a little bit more appropriate access.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Dilly Elementary School, As I mentioned, we're out to bid now. Bids are coming in January for that project. Then we will have our general contractor on board. And we'll work through permitting and all the pre-constructions. This is we call it 10-year wonder. This one needs to be, started and done this coming summer. I had some contractors ask me, be sure that schedule's right. We've done it, before, and this is about $1 million worth of work, so we definitely feel like it can be done. The nice thing there is, so in a lot of these seismic upgrades, we're going in, and we're putting in shear walls, you know, so they actually have stiffness and they don't collapse or twist and all that. So a lot of the work at Dilly is being done outside. So it's kind of a double bonus. We don't have to go in to the inside, except for a few locations. And then we'll replace some old siding. We deal with dry rot while we're doing that. Go back with new cement board siding, paint it. And then we're gonna look at getting a bid alternate for painting the whole building. And if we can afford that, we can have to. Lots of times the seismic upgrades happen, and then what happened? Can't see anything. Well, we're trying to do where we can, you know, upgrade some of that, included some hollow wainscot upgrades and painting. So, you know, we're gonna go in there and take the wall apart, put in that shear wall, build it back, and it's gonna, you know, actually look pretty interesting. Things like that. So I think that'll be nice.
It really doesn't have in their bond budget, it's a lot of seismic, it's some plumbing repairs, roofing, like there isn't much there, and so for the community to feel like they got value from the bond, we're trying to make sure that through this seismic work, we can make it feel like refresh
Yeah.
and give the community something. So the hallways on the inside, and there's drawings out there on the tables, the inside hallways will get redone, and then the exterior, John was saying, so I think there's only 2 classrooms that get impacted on the inside of the classroom. Great.
Yeah, so it really is helpful. We don't have to go in the office and move that out. There's a couple of classrooms, we'll have to move contents out. As little disruptions we can cause to staff. Lowers our moving costs too, so.
So I'm gonna ask the question because I'm in Gales Creek. What about the tax dollars the Gales Creek people pay? What are we gonna see at Gales Creek School?
So they are,
Am I jumping ahead?
we Gales Creek is a lot of deferred maintenance. Electrical, flooring, fire panels, some asphalt and plumbing. Gales Creek doesn't have a lot, because they don't have seismic funds we're not doing a major seismic improvement. The reason at Dilly we were able to do it is, and Gales Creek's getting playground stuff too, improvements, which isn't listed here, but we've been talking about it, when we're looking at our playground assessments. But we're able with those seismic dollars to be able to utilize them a little differently. Where at Gales Creek, we don't have that opportunity so much.
So when you say playground, what are you talking about?
So we met with the playground contractor or vendor earlier this week, and Krista out there to try to find out what the needs are. Right now, there's some equipment out there that's not safe. It needs to be replaced, and so trying to look at what's there, what the student population out there needs and wants, and how we can replace some of the equipment and then fix some of it out there.
So have you reached out to the community also?
Not yet, we are just starting to
Okay.
investigate it.
Okay. It's
So,
important that you
we're-
reach out to the community.
yeah, we're just starting to investigate what the needs are. We just reached out to Krista on Monday.
Okay,
So, yeah, nice, thank you.
Tom McCall East is mainly deferred maintenance that we're jumping into and planning for summer 2025. Similar for Fern Hill, deferred maintenance 2025. Just Gale, similar scope there. And then custodial.
So custodial and nutrition equipment, it really should say nutrition equipment. There's only two pieces of custodial equipment in that budget. But primarily it's nutrition equipment. We've gone out and done all of our assessments. We have our list of equipment. I'm just waiting on two components and it will go to the board here in the next, probably in January for all of the nutrition equipment for summer one, and then summer two will be the second phase of summer, nutrition equipment, but a lot of it will be done in the first summer. So we'll be able to get all of that aligned, and I think some of it we even have planned to replace, over spring break. So we're moving on that one. I just don't have any POs out there yet. We're finalizing it.
And then last project we have is district office, central admin, preferred names their playground. We were talking about, this week. And fire, we're gonna, do assessments of, I think, all the fire systems throughout the district to see where, which ones are okay, which ones need to be replaced. So that this is part of that.
And then the last page is the contingency budget, and that's where all of our overhead costs kind of get offset by. Knowing that when we went out for the bond, knowing that we were gonna have bond interest and we were gonna have bond premium, we did not budget the overhead costs in with the bond project. So this is where all of that goes. The bond management costs, the cornerstone, we have some bond communications, advertising, accounting, legal and dues fees, and then everything related to the sale of the community center will go here until we sell the community center, and then it will offset the sale of it. So this is the placeholder for that.
We talked about that. Okay, so let's, at Cornelius, there's a portion of the building that was built with one of the new laws, let me say it's 1990-ish, somewhere in there. In working with the city was interested in obtaining that part of the building to use as a community center. For, you know, it's kind of commercial.
So like right now, is it the cafeteria?
Cafeteria. It's basically the gym, cafeteria, and part of the office space. And so we worked with the city, we kind of talked to some appraisers and kind of got a price. We kind of negotiated that with the city, and so now the plan is for them to purchase that community center from us, and then we would cut off.
We're working on a property line adjustment right now to separate the property into two tax lots so that when we do this, that we can sell off just the community centers. We're working on that right now.
But it was one, it will push money back into the bond project. And then two, just really serves a great purpose for years. That kitchen, 10 feet from their town hall, is just such a powerful spot. It's an exciting project. We need some things to fall in place so that we're.
They're still trying to secure it.
Their funds. Yeah.
Okay, any questions on the bond project updates? This is a lot more information than what we've given in the past couple meetings. Okay. As far as next steps today, the annual board report from this committee to the board it needs to go out every year. And initial thoughts is that we would prep it March and April to go to the board for April 22nd. The caveat is it's a report from this committee to the board. And so I will need one of you guys to take the lead on this. So the goal tonight would be to identify who wants to help take the lead on that. And I'm happy to help guide through, give data, help support in creating this board report. It only has to be, a single page to whatever you guys want to do. This is really your guys' opportunity to report back to the board on how we're doing on these three things. So. Everybody's like.
I'm done saying.
Okay, So I'll reach out to you after the new year and we can set up some time.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that.
And then,
I know you're not. And I don't usually have that, so okay.
the next meeting's March 20th. Where would you guys like to meet? Want to see the old building? Inside? Yeah,
Might actually break new ground.
Yeah.
might be some
Well,
fencing up by then. Yeah,
Yeah, we can see that. at meetings.
yeah.
Yeah,
I follow.
I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, it's kind of nice because
might give them that 5 p.m.
I mean, it's great for you all to have current information, so we'll be right there before we're about to really get going.
Yeah.
And so we can show you the site logistics plan, you'll know where the contractors can have their trailers, where the fence is gonna be, so you'll be able to answer a lot of questions you may get out of this, so.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay.
Cornelius Elementary. And then, lastly, after we close the meeting, we just have drawings out here for you guys. You can see what the big projects that we're working on. And then we can also go keep our heads in at the gym floor, if you guys would like to see that. So it's open and, close.
All right, nothing, anybody have anything else? No? All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:36.